There is a silent voice inside every human heart, a whisper that says, "You were made for more." Not more noise, more possessions, or more distractions, but more meaning, more purpose, more life. But we live in a world that trains us to survive, not to awaken. We scroll endlessly but rarely look within. We chase validation, not vision. Yet, transformation is not an accident. It is a result of consistent habits, small choices, made daily. These habits, like keys, can unlock a deeper, more powerful version of you. Today, let us explore 5 of these habits. 5 timeless principles that have changed lives across generations. They won't just improve your schedule, they will reshape your soul. In the modern world, silence has become a forgotten art, a sacred space we've traded for the constant hum of activity and the numbing noise of our devices. We run from it, as if within its stillness lies some terrible emptiness. But this is a profound misunderstanding. Silence is not a void. It is the womb of consciousness, the chamber in which our deepest truths echo if we are brave enough to listen. Every individual carries within them a wellspring of insight, but the key to accessing it lies not in doing more, but in being less reactive, less distracted, less afraid to face the unknown within. Each day, we wake up and are pulled instantly into the external world. The buzzing of our phones, the ping of messages, the flood of tasks and expectations. We begin our days already fractured, our minds scattered like leaves in the wind. But what if instead, we began by going inward? Just 10 minutes of deliberate stillness in the morning. 10 minutes where we sit, not as consumers of information or performers of roles, but as silent witnesses to our own presence, can recalibrate the entire trajectory of our day. It is not a luxury. It is a necessity if we wish to live consciously. This daily encounter with silence is not merely a break from the world, but a reunion with ourselves. In stillness, the dust settles. The voices of the past, of fear, of doubt, of expectation, they quiet. And something more authentic begins to stir. Our inner voice, soft and steady, begins to speak. But it has been drowned out for so long that many no longer recognize it. Reconnecting with this voice is not always pleasant at first. It may bring discomfort, unspoken pain, truths we've tried to ignore. Yet, this is where transformation begins, in the courageous act of facing ourselves without distraction. Great minds have always understood this. When faced with choices that could shape the future, they turned not to more data, more meetings, more external validation, but to silence. Steve Jobs, for instance, often wandered alone in nature, allowing the rhythm of his own breath and the whispers of the trees to guide him. His greatest innovations did not emerge from noise, but from an internal stillness that allowed something original to surface. He trusted that clarity is not something we chase, but something that arises when we finally stop running. The practice of daily silence does not promise immediate answers or instant peace. It is not a quick fix. But over time, it cultivates a powerful inner alignment. It reminds us that we are not merely products of the world around us, we are creators of it. And creation, real creation, begins in the silence where we meet ourselves fully. So ask yourself, not with urgency, but with sincerity, what has your inner voice been trying to say, hidden beneath the volume of your daily life? And more importantly, are you finally ready to listen? To live without reflection is to drift aimlessly through the vast sea of our own unconscious, never knowing why we are moved by certain waves, why we are wrecked by others. In the quiet act of writing, just one honest sentence a day, we drop anchor. We become not just experiencers of life, but observers of it. This seemingly small ritual holds immense transformative power, for it returns us to ourselves in a world that constantly pulls us away. One sentence, That is all it takes. Not a page, not a perfect paragraph, not something poetic or wise. Just one clear truth that surfaces from within. I feel ashamed. I miss someone I pretend to be over. I laughed today and meant it. These are not just words, they are revelations. Each one is a crack through which light enters, through which the unconscious becomes conscious. In the beginning, we may struggle to name the truth. We may even resist it. The psyche is not fond of sudden exposure. But truth, when welcomed, begins to loosen the knots we didn't know we were tied in. This habit is not about performance. It does not ask you to be a writer. It asks you only to be present, to witness with humility what is real for you in that moment. It demands courage, not skill. Because honesty, even in its smallest form, is an act of defiance against the say. Many masks we wear. We are conditioned to present a version of ourselves the world accepts. But when the hand picks up the pen and carves one unfiltered sentence into the page, something ancient and powerful stirs. We remember what it feels like to be whole. The power of this practice is not in the sentence itself, but in what it awakens. It shifts your relationship to your emotions. You are no longer overwhelmed by the storm. You are standing in it, naming it, understanding its winds. To say, "I am afraid," is not weakness. It is the beginning of sovereignty. For what we can name, we can begin to transform. Without that awareness, we remain trapped, reacting rather than responding, suppressing rather than integrating. Even in the darkest places, this practice can be a lifeline. When paper is gone, the mind can still be a page. Viktor Frankl, amidst the horror of the Holocaust, wrote silent entries to himself, preserving the flame of his inner life. He understood that reflection, even in despair, was an act of survival. To bear witness to one's experience is to declare, "I still exist, I still matter." And so each day, write one honest sentence. Let it be messy, let it be raw, let it be real. Over time, those fragments will come together, forming a mirror in which you finally see yourself clearly, not as the world expects you to be, but as you truly are. And in that reflection lies the beginning of freedom. Within every soul lies a silent battlefield, a space where fear and potential wrestle for dominion. We are drawn instinctively to safety, to predictability, to the known. And yet, the path of becoming, the path of true growth, leads us ever so gently beyond that which feels comfortable. Fear is not the signal to retreat. It is the signal to pay attention. It is the whisper of the soul saying, "Here is the edge of who you are. Cross it, and you will meet who you could be." The modern world teaches us to avoid discomfort. It trains us to curate lives of control and ease, to seek only those experiences that reinforce our sense of security. But in doing so, we become strangers to our deeper nature. For it is only when we do the thing that makes our hands tremble and our voices shake that we touch the raw material of transformation. One act a day. One moment of stepping into fear. That is enough to ignite a profound shift within the psyche. Fear, when understood, is not the enemy. It is a compass, pointing us directly toward the places we have abandoned or hidden. It reveals the wounds that still ache, the truths we have yet to claim, the gifts we are afraid to share. To do the thing that scares you is to enter into conscious dialogue with your shadow, not to fight it, but to integrate it. And when we take that step, even trembling, the shadow ceases to haunt us. It becomes our teacher. I remember a woman I met at a retreat, her presence quiet and unsure. She confessed that the very thought of speaking aloud to a group made her chest tighten. Yet her voice, though soft, carried a beauty that longed to be heard. I asked her to read a poem at the UI closing ceremony. Her hands shook as she stood. Her voice cracked. But she did it. And as her tears fell, so did the tears of everyone listening. What she feared most became the bridge to connection, not only with others, but with her truest self. Today, she leads workshops around the world, not because she conquered her fear, but because she chose to walk through it. That is the essence of transformation, not erasing fear, but moving with it. Each day, when we choose the harder yes over the easy no, when we choose to speak, to reveal, to risk, we reclaim a piece of our own power. We stop living in fragments and begin to live in full presence. So ask yourself, not in judgment, but in gentle curiosity, what is it that I am avoiding? What act of truth lies just behind this fear? Then take one small step toward it. The ground will not fall away, it will rise to meet you. And in that moment, something within you, long buried, will begin to breathe again. Human beings are not isolated creatures. We do not grow in vacuums, nor do we collapse in solitude. Our psyche is shaped, stretched, and sometimes scarred by those we allow into our orbit. The soul, though innately individual, is also deeply relational. And so, the company we keep becomes more than just background. It becomes the architecture of our becoming. We may think we are defined by our goals or by the images we hold of who we wish to be. But in truth, we are constantly absorbing the energy, beliefs, and emotional currents of those closest to us. We become, often unconsciously, what we are surrounded by. Every friendship, every relationship, is an exchange of influence. Some people bring clarity. Their presence evokes our higher nature, our forgotten courage, our hidden gifts. Others, even with smiles on their faces, pull us back into patterns we've worked so hard to outgrow. They remind us, not of who we are becoming, but of who we were when we didn't yet believe we could change. And so we must ask, who is holding the mirror in front of us? And what does it show? Does it reflect our fears and limitations? Or does it illuminate the parts of us we have yet to claim? It takes maturity to recognize that love is not always aligned with growth. Some relationships are rooted in comfort, nostalgia, or a shared past, but not in mutual elevation. And while we may hesitate to let go, fearing loss, guilt, or loneliness, it is far more dangerous to remain surrounded by voices that diminish us. Growth requires challenge, not just comfort. We need people who tell us the truth, not just what we want to hear, who see through the mask and speak to the essence beneath it. An 80-year Harvard study on human development revealed a truth we often overlook in our pursuit of success, that the single greatest predictor of long-term happiness and health is the quality of our relationships. Not wealth, not prestige, not achievements, but connection. Meaningful, uplifting, soul-nourishing connection. This isn't just emotional wisdom. It is scientific reality. When we feel seen, supported, and inspired, our very biology responds with vitality. So curate your circle not with harsh judgment, but with deep intention. Choose the voices that uplift rather than undermine. Walk with those who remind you of your vision when you forget. And when necessary, step back from those who cannot meet you where you are or where you are going. This is not cruelty, it is alignment. Your inner world is too sacred, your path too important, to be clouded by energies that do not serve it. To surround yourself with people who speak life into your dreams is not a luxury. It is a form of self-respect. And as you make these choices, something remarkable happens. You begin to see yourself more clearly, more lovingly, through the eyes of those who truly believe in you. And in that reflection, your spirit finds the strength to soar. In the quiet act of service, something ancient within us awakens, a memory not of who we strive to become, but of who we have always been beneath the noise of identity. True service does not announce itself. It does not seek applause, nor does it calculate the return. It simply flows, like a river unconcerned with where its water ends up. And in this flow, the ego, so preoccupied with recognition, reward, and self-preservation, begins to dissolve. What remains is not a void, but the radiant presence of the soul, that deeper part of us which knows that to serve another is to remember our own humanity. We often imagine service as something grand, something requiring resources, titles, or visibility. But that is the illusion of the ego, always seeking to amplify itself through action. In truth, the most profound acts of service are often the smallest, offered quietly, unnoticed, and without condition. A kind word when it's least expected. A helping hand extended without being asked. A patient silence held while another heart spills open. These moments may pass quickly, but their impact lingers like a subtle perfume, invisible yet unmistakably real. There is something deeply healing in helping another without needing to be acknowledged. It calls forth a gentleness that modern life often buries. The world teaches us to compete, to assert, to measure our worth through outcomes. But when we serve without expectation, we step outside that paradigm. We create a space not governed by transaction, but by compassion. And in that space, we meet not only the other person, but a fuller version of ourselves. We see that the self is not an island, isolated and separate, but part of a vast, interconnected sea of being. I once heard of a man in Tokyo who stands at the same train station each day, offering directions to tourists who appear confused or lost. He is not employed to do this. No one has assigned him the role. He simply shows up every day with kindness in his eyes and a willingness to help. The locals call him the light of the station. He takes no money, expects no praise. And yet, through his simple, consistent service, he illuminates something essential, something easily forgotten in the rush of modern life, that we belong to each other. When we serve in this way, without needing anything in return, we are restored to our original nature. The burden of self-importance lifts. The walls between me and you grow thin. We begin to feel what we always sensed deep down, that we are not separate, that your joy is my joy, your pain my pain. And in choosing to be of use, even in the smallest way, we tether ourselves back to the sacred truth that we are part of something greater than our own striving. To serve without expectation is not to lose oneself. It is to remember oneself, whole, connected, and capable of making the world gentler, one quiet act at a time. These habits are not quick fixes. They are seeds, planted daily, watered with courage, and grown in the soil of self-honesty. They will bear fruit, a life not just lived, but fulfilled. You were not born to sleepwalk through your days. You were born to awaken. So begin. One small habit, one quiet revolution, and you will see the life you dream of is already waiting inside. You, just waiting to be lived.